Hello and welcome back to my channel. It is time to go over all of the books that I read in the month of July. I read 14 books in total, four physical books, 6 ebooks, and I finished 4 audiobooks. So I also bought 4 books for myself. I did buy another book as a gift for someone else in the month of July, but I don't count that on my tally because it's not being added to my physical TBR. So I feel like 4 physical books out, 4 physical books in, pretty good a swap. However, in the month of July, I did read a lot of pages. I tackled most of the longest books on my TBR. The book that I'm currently reading still is The Survivor Wants to Die at the End. I think I'm just over 100 pages in. I'm 120 pages in. I have just been moving through this book a little bit slower. I haven't really been in as big of a reading mood, but when I do pick this up and read it, I am interested in it and I'm enjoying it. It's just taking me a little bit longer to get through. Plus, I have so many books going right now that one is not currently my priority. So I also have my reading journal here so I can go through and remember all the books that I read in the past month. So let's start out with my audiobooks this time. So the first audiobook that I finished, and I will pop a picture up here, is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faizal. This book had been on my radar, and I believe it was on my list of books I want to read, and so I picked it up from my library as an audiobook, and I just don't feel like I'm the audience for it. It is young adult, and it was just okay. Because it's a duology, I'm going to listen to the other one as well, but it didn't capture my attention. It was okay. I'm glad that I listened to it and got it off my list, but it just didn't feel super unique or interesting, or it just didn't capture my attention in that way. So it was a middle of the road book, but I'm glad I finally got it off my list. The next audiobook was another one from my list, and it is When the Stars Go Dark by Paula McLain. This is like a mystery thriller, I guess what I would classify it as, and I really enjoyed this one. It was something a little bit different than what I had been reading recently, so it's nice to mix it up and get all of that in. The next book that I listened to on Spotify to use my Spotify hours, and it was Once and Future, and this is also one that has been on my list since I think 2018 or 2019. Whenever this book came out, that's when I started my want to read list. And this book, the blurb of it was super interesting, is why I put it on my list. It was completely disappointing. It is a retelling of King Arthur, but for being a retelling and having that source material, there was absolutely no plot. The characters were very one-dimensional. I will not be continuing this series. It is very rare that I don't finish out a series, and this is a duology too, but I just can't see myself wasting my time. But yeah, there was so much telling, and there was no showing, and yeah, it was very disappointing for the concept. It fell so flat. I believe I gave this book 1 star, and it has been a couple years since I gave a book 1 star. I have to really dislike it to give it 1 star. I think I originally gave it 2 stars, and then the more I sat with it, I was like, this really is a 1 star book. So I'm glad that's finally off of my list, and I no longer have to think about that book ever again. My next audiobook is another one that was on my list. It was, and I believe this is the last audiobook that I got through in the month of July. It was The Magnolia Palace by Fiona Davis. I really enjoyed this book. This was historical fiction, and I've been getting a little bit more back into historical fiction. I really hadn't been reading it for a while, and I'd gotten burnt out, but like this historical fiction, the setting was different. It's set in New York, and it also does like a dual timeline that eventually comes together, which is a historical fiction plot device that I really enjoy. And I've read a couple of this author's books before, and I really enjoyed them. I'm glad I listened to it. It was just a nice different genre that I hadn't been reading so much of lately, and it just kind of mixed up what I was reading. So that was the last audiobook. Let's move on to my 6 ebooks that I read. So I flip back in here. The first ebook that I got done in the month of July was The Final Gambit, which I believe is the 3rd book. Yeah, the 3rd book in the Inheritance Games series. I enjoy my reading experience with these books. I find them fun and entertaining and quick to get through. And so I think I have one more that was available on Kindle Unlimited that I've checked out, but I just have some other books that I'm trying to get through first. So I will get to that next book eventually, but I'm glad that I'm continuing this series and I'm having a lot of fun with it. My next ebook was actually one, I think this is also Kindle Unlimited, and it's a short story written in letters. It's Evidence of the Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read Atmosphere, her new release, in June, and I absolutely loved it, and I just wanted to read a little bit more by her, but I had a bunch of books going, so I thought, perfect, I will pick up this short story. And even in a short story sense, her storytelling style really shows up. I mean, this book was super short. The only narration was in letters, but the story was compelling, and she always has her little twists in it, and I just found it so entertaining, and I love her writing and her storytelling style. And I actually went to my library recently and I picked up Malibu Rising because I want to read more of Taylor Jenkins Reid's backlist, because I've loved everything I've read by her so far. Then I read an entire series on my Kindle as ebooks. So I read the entire Briar U series by Elle Kennedy. And I had read her Off-Campus series, and I forget what the other one's called. But these all are in the same world. Sorry if you can hear my dryer. These all take place in the same world with connecting characters and whatnot, and I love stepping back into it. So these are all sports romances, specifically hockey romance, and I just enjoyed my time reading these. So the first book is The Chase. I was just in the mood for a romance book, and I know I like this author's writing. I know exactly what I'm going to get when I read, and I thought, you know what? Let's pick this up. I know it would be a fast read, and I just needed a change of pace. Then I enjoyed my time with that so much, I decided I needed to pick up the next book right away, and the next book is The Risk. I just wanted more of the storyline, and because I knew who the next set of characters that it was going to be following was, I knew I'd still get quite a bit of the characters from The Chase in that, and I just was enjoying their story, so I was glad to see a little bit more of that. Then I picked up, my dryer beeps twice, so then I picked up The Play, which is the 3rd book, and it just was fun to just like get through these quick romances. I liked being in the universe. It's just enjoyable and fun to read, and that's what I needed right now, especially since a lot of the books I have been reading, I just haven't been super in the mood for like connecting with. And then the last one is The Dare, and this was my least favorite out of the 4. I just didn't find the characters and the plot as convincing as the other three, and there were some descriptions and whatnot within the book that just kind of took me out of the reading experience, but otherwise it was still a fun, quick read, and I enjoyed reading this entire series back to back to back to back, and it was just so fun to just binge an entire series. So that is all of my ebooks that I read. Now, lastly, onto my physical books. The first book that I read and finished in July was Cloud Atlas. This I really enjoyed. It is a series of stories that are all sandwiched together, and there's some interconnecting pieces to them, and it was just like a very enjoyable read, and I picked this one up at the right time because I was in a very literary mood, and this is very much in that literary space. There's some sci-fi elements, there's some history elements, but I would classify it mostly as literary. And yeah, it was really enjoyable and fun, and this is also a borrowed book and I can return it. The next book that I picked up, also a borrowed book, and I was really excited to read, was The God of the Woods. This is a like mystery thriller book, and I wasn't quite sure what this book was. I just had heard a lot of people talking about it and found it, and the little bits and pieces sounded really interesting, and my mom read this for her book club recently, so she borrowed it to me, and I really enjoyed this. I sat down and read this book in and it's almost, I think it's around 500 pages maybe, in like a couple days. And then this book is over 400 pages. Okay, this book is over 500 pages. So we have over 500 pages. This one's like 450. Nope, close to 500 pages. So as you can see, just right away at the beginning of the month, I was reading a lot of pages. And then the next physical book I picked up was actually a nonfiction book that has been on my bookshelf for over a year, that I picked up at my local used bookstore. Is The Devil in the White City. This is about the World Fair in Chicago, and in 1893. I really enjoyed this. I like this author's storytelling style with nonfiction. I found it really compelling and interesting. And then after I read this, there's some bits and pieces that I wanted to look up, and I realized that this year there is a World Fair in Osaka, Japan, which is one of my favorite places. So that was like a really fun connection that while I was reading this, but I really enjoyed this. And again, another 400 plus page book. Yeah, over 400 pages. So again, the longest books on my TBR shelf. And then the final physical book that I finished in the month of July, another giant book. This one is just under 700 pages, I believe. Yeah, just under 700 pages, was When the Moon Hatched. I did sit down and read this in about 2-ish days. I enjoyed it. It was a very fast-paced romantasy. I definitely will pick up the next book when it comes out, I believe in February. Yeah, I found it fun, and I haven't read a book similar to this in a while, which I think is why I found this so fun. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. I just enjoyed it. I thought the characters were interesting. I thought the concept was interesting, and I just found it fun, which is what I'm looking for when I'm reading books like that. So those are the 14 books that I read in the month of July. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.